Welcome,
Okay,
everybody.
sounds good.
Hello. Yeah. Welcome to the Chamber's webinar today. It's a loan application Q&A. As first responders to the business community, our Chamber has been working diligently to provide all our businesses with information you need about access to capital, clarifications on safer at home, and other needs you have during this crisis. Every day, I think things are changing. We're doing our best to keep up. We aren't just here to help you survive today, but we also want you to thrive and to be ready for the future, to be ready for when it's time for us to get back to business as usual. So it's time for us to start thinking also about how will we strengthen our business now so we're ready to go when it's time. And we can emerge stronger than we were before. And we know basically what you really need to keep afloat, your business is afloat right now, is cash, and you needed it yesterday. And so we know there's a ton of resources out there. We're doing our best to try to park them all in one place, sfbresource.com, and it includes a page on access to capital. We're trying to keep any resources that we have information there, so check it often, sfbresource.com. And so you're probably here today because you've either already applied for a loan or a grant, or you are thinking about it. And we just wanted to have a forum and a place for you to be able to ask questions to an expert. And that's what we're going to do today. So before I introduce Catherine, I just wanted to go through a couple of housekeeping tips. One, if you have a question, if you can go down to the bottom, you'll see a Q&A button, and there's a panel there. Please put your questions into the Q&A panel. And then what you can also do is if you see someone ask a question and you have the same one, go ahead and upvote it, and that'll bring it to the top of the queue, and we'll make sure we go through those questions first. So please make sure you do that. Any questions? If you have any other chats or information, the chat panel is fine as well. I'll be checking that as well. Any other questions? If you have, oh, there's Nancy.
Our phone system guy is here.
Oh, perfect. So Nancy is the Chamber is being very safe and listening to our mayor and listening to our elected officials and keeping safe. So there's Nancy. Nancy, you want to say hi real quick?
Hi. If I have to hop off, it's because Ameritel's, S&W is here taking out the old phones. So that's why we gotta be, I protect you, you protect me.
Exactly. We all protect each other. Okay, so now I'd like to introduce Catherine, our speaker. So Catherine Grooms leads and manages the SBDC, which is a Small Business Development Center, hosted by College of the Canyons, a team of 25, including 20 professional business advisors providing services to clients in the San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita Valley, and Antelope Valley. It's a very huge area. Working with thousands of small businesses, owners, and entrepreneurs, and her broad experience prior to joining the SBDC, working with companies both small and large on the East Coast, Midwest, and in California in a variety of industries, domestic, international businesses, helps clients positively impact the local economies. Catherine has a BBA in accounting from Howard University and an MBA from the University of Baltimore. She's a graduate of the Leadership Development Program at Duke University's Fuqua School of Business Executive Education and the Leadership Development Program at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. She is very well educated, very well learned. She has so much experience. We're so excited to have her today. So we're grateful to have her help you navigate this. And why don't you go ahead and take it away, Catherine?
Okay. Thank you for having me, Nancy and Fuyumi. I'm so glad to be a part of this. And thank you for everybody that's able to participate. So you have a quick intro on who I am. I am the director of the SBDC. I do have a team of 20 professional business advisors, and we are still working with our clients, both existing clients and new clients. We're actually part of the SBA. So we're an SBA technical resource partner, which means we are working with entrepreneurs, business owners, individuals that want to have a positive impact on the economy, which you're doing because you're supporting jobs, you're creating sales, working towards sales growth, profitability. In terms of capital, there's all different types of capital. So disaster assistance is one of our areas of expertise as we have disasters happen. In addition to that, we work with businesses on business planning, strategic planning, business modeling, accessing capital, sales and marketing, public relations, finance, accounting, management, strategy, and operations. We do have specialties which include entertainment and arts, fashion industry, food, specialty food, restaurants, technology, e-commerce, intellectual property, and we also have certifications and contracting opportunities. And yes, Paul Davis, our website is cocSBDC.org. Again, I will provide that later. But I just wanted to give you a sense, you know, that we are working with clients on disaster assistance. And like Fuyumi said, is we have to be able to move beyond what we're in right now. We're in survival mode. We're trying to remain sustainable. So it's just so that you are aware of other areas that we work with. And we are able to provide professional one-on-one business advising because of our sponsors. So I mentioned the SBA, they're a sponsor. College of the Canyons is our host. They're a sponsor too. And my team is actually employees of College of the Canyons. We have the state of California, cities in the geographical area that we cover, and other entities that sponsor us. And that is how we are able to continue to work with clients. So we get paid through your impact on the economy. It's for those jobs that you're supporting in the economy. It's you growing your business. It's the capital that's flowing into the economy. We're very accessible. We do have locations in the San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita Valley, and the Antelope Valley. However, we are working in the coronavirus impacted environment, so we're not meeting with clients in person at our locations or at client facilities, but we are meeting with clients via phone and virtually. So absolutely, we're available regular business hours, evenings, early in the morning, weekends. I had a 6:30 meeting this morning, and I had an 8 o'clock meeting last night. So we're absolutely working with you. We're a resource you can access. So I'm going to share my screen now so that we can start to go through some slides, and we will absolutely have Q&A so you can ask questions. I think there's some questions.
There's already some questions.
We'll
go ahead
those.
and do those at the end. Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Am I able to share the screen now?
Yes.
Fuyumi?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going.
Go to where it says Share Connect, I think it says,
Okay.
on your panel.
Hold on, I'm switching over. Yes, I'm there now.
There it comes.
Okay. All right, so you get a sense of the different types of businesses that we're working with. This is just a visual for you so that you see. So we talked about being in a survival mode, sustainability mode, and we're absolutely going to be moving past that. We need to be able to work with the resources that are available right now. So I mentioned that SBDC as a resource, and the San Fernando Valley Chamber of Commerce has a resource page with resources that are constantly being updated. It's changing throughout the day and daily. So keep checking back on those resources. For those of you who do have employees, absolutely, if you have not, check into EDD. If you have employees, you want to know the perspective from an employer and an employee basis. So keep checking with EDD because there may be additional updates there to benefit you, the employer, and to be aware to help you limit your risk, and for employees too. iBank is another resource that's available. It's a disaster relief loan guarantee program. It is through the state of California. It is ibank.ca.gov. So something else for you to take advantage of. It is a loan program. I'm sure that some of you have applied for the SBA disaster loan. It's also called EIDL or EIDL. And the SBA disaster loan is geared to help businesses remain sustainable as they are being impacted by the coronavirus. There is an online application process. The SBA is a direct lender. So again, it's an opportunity for you to get some relief to help with those operating expenses that continue if you are an essential business, if you are a non-essential business. There are still operating expenses. And I'm going to make the distinguishing difference between the SBA disaster loan and PPP. When you think of the SBA disaster loan, think about sustainability and non-payroll related costs. Again, there's an online application process that is the link that's being shown. What it requires is information about your business entity. So business name, entity type, tax ID number, primary business address, that type of thing. It also asks for 12 months of gross sales or revenue for the period preceding when your business was impacted by the coronavirus. Another piece of information that they're looking for is up to 12 months of the cost of goods sold or expenses related to that gross revenue or sales. Part of the online process is that there is a box you can check, and it's for an advance up to $10,000. The advance does not need to be repaid. So the way that it works is that the online application process is with the SBA. You're completing that. You're checking off the box if you are interested in up to a $10,000 advance. It will also ask for your routing number and account number. You'll submit, you'll get a confirmation number. The SBA is the direct lender, and this is for helping sustainability of the business. The turnaround time for a decision from the SBA is 14 calendar days. We have many clients that have applied and they have been approved. They've gotten turnaround times within like 4 to 5 days. But again, that varies by organization. So the SBA disaster loan or EIDL is for for-profit businesses, and it's also for 501c businesses and veteran organizations and tribal organizations. So it's a broad group that can be assisted because everyone needs help in sustainability, and there will continue to be operating expenses in many instances. So again, it's the SBA reviewing the information that you're providing through the online process. You're getting a response on the loan decision in up to 14 calendar days. So it's sustainability based. So let's pretend that you apply, you get an approval from the SBA on the disaster loan. The SBA will come back with an amount based upon the information that you provided. Now, the initial information is just a starting point. In some instances, they will ask you for additional information. So don't be surprised in some instances that they come back and ask for additional information. It's to help them get a better understanding of the impact of your business on the economy and how it needs to be sustained. And they're trying to help as many businesses as they can. So we're pretending you're doing the online application process. You've gotten an approval from the SBA. This is where they give you the amount. There is an advance up to $10,000. So in that instance, you're saying, yes, I'm interested in the amount that you've offered. They will subtract the advance amount from that, and then the remaining balance will be the loan that is payable over up to 30 years. There is a 3.75% interest rate. The first payment is not due until January of 2021. There's no prepayment penalty. So again, this is an option for you to consider if you haven't already. We're also going to talk about PPP, but before I go to PPP, there are, sorry about that. There are instances for the Paycheck Protection Program, so kind of a tongue twister. I'm going to say PPP instead of Paycheck Protection Program. So with the Paycheck Protection Program, it does fall under the CARES Act, and you're going through your business bank. So for those of you who do not bank with an SBA approved lender, I do have some options for you that I will provide. So the way that it's working is that the PPP was rolled out to approved SBA lenders because they have the ability and the infrastructure in place to handle a high volume of loan activity. There have been some kinks with the rollout, so I think that the volumes have been just a little bit overwhelming, and maybe from a technology perspective, they were thinking, you know, they would be able to handle the large volumes. But if you haven't had an opportunity to check into the PPP, I'm suggesting that you type in your bank's name and also type in Paycheck Protection Program. For many of the SBA approved lenders, they have unique URLs, and they're making sure that the available information, you know, is updated through those URLs. So again, if you haven't had the opportunity, type in your bank's name and Paycheck Protection Program. You'll follow that link. In some instances, they are able to process the information online through the online applications. In others, it's an initial screen where you're providing information about the business entity. Phase 1 was opened on Friday, April 3rd. It was open to individuals doing business as a business entity name. It was also open to LLCs. It was open to S Corps and C Corps. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 opens tomorrow, April 10th, and it will extend to those that are considered to be self-employed or independent contractors. Again, it's going through your business bank. So you have to think about who your business bank is, type that in, type in Paycheck Protection Program, and then in most instances, there's a unique URL. In other instances, you can go to your bank's website and still type in Paycheck Protection Program. So the PPP is geared to help keep employees fully employed during the period that the business is being impacted by the coronavirus. So again, fully employed is a critical part of the PPP. So let's say you are able to apply through your bank. We're assuming that they're an SBA approved lender. Again, I will provide some other resources for those of you that know you do not bank with an SBA approved lender. So you apply through the online application process. It's going to ask for business entity information. It's also going to ask for average monthly payroll. Again, because this is based upon payroll costs and keeping people fully employed. There is an element of the PPP where you can ask the lender for forgiveness. So you're going through your bank, you're using their online application process. Let's pretend that you did apply, you get a decision back. Let's say that the loan is approved. It's up to 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. And that's part of the information that you're providing. You're providing average monthly payroll amount. You're providing the number of full-time employees or full-time equivalent employees that you can help through PPP. So you have the approval from the lender. There is an 8-week period following when the point that the loan is received. And that's where you're going to request forgiveness from the lender. Again, you're applying through the lender, you're awaiting a decision from the lender, you get the approval, you have the 8-week period from when the loan is received, and you need to substantiate the payroll cost spending. So they will probably ask for employees' names, rate of pay, hours that they were worked. You'll have to provide support for the payment being made that's payroll related. So some of you process your own payroll internally. Some of you may use an accountant or a payroll service. Again, it's just supporting the payroll cost that has been spent. Forgiveness or potential forgiveness through the PPP is up to 75% of the loan amount that is spent on payroll-related costs. The other category of potential forgiveness through the lender is for mortgage interest or rent, lease payments, and then the utilities associated with that space. So if you have a 100% loan amount, up to 75% can be spent on payroll-related costs, up to 25% can be spent on mortgage interest for the space and or rent or lease for the space, and then the utilities. But what happens is that once you request the forgiveness from the lender, they have up to 60 days to give you a decision. So again, we're assuming you have the PPP loan received, you're spending in that 8-week period. At the end of that 8-week period, you're requesting forgiveness from your lender. They'll come back with a decision. Hopefully it's sooner than the 60 days, but they do have up to 60 days. They'll come back with a decision, you know, all of it's forgiven, some of it's forgiven. And it's important to remember that you want to keep as many people fully employed as you can during that 8-week period. If for some reason you need to make operational changes and you have employees that drop down to less than full-time employment, or you have to reduce the amount that they're being paid, you can make those type of changes through April 26th, and you have until June 30th to restore them to full-time status, full-time employment, adjust the wages up to the full-time rate or the rate that it was before you had to make the adjustment. If for some reason you're not able to, that just means that the forgiveness amount that you're requesting will probably be decreased. So we have a loan amount, we have potentially some of it being forgiven or all of it being forgiven in that 8-week period. So then the balance that remains will be a 2-year term loan. The interest rate is 1%. The first loan payment is deferred for 6 months, although the interest will be accrued. There is no prepayment penalty, no collateral required, and no personal guarantee. Important to remember about PPP, it is to help keep employees fully employed as your business is being impacted by the coronavirus. So I mentioned those of you that may be banking with non-SBA approved lenders. So I do have websites that you can go to. I have banksocal.com. That is the Bank of Southern California. I have https:// you have to put it in because of the site, and then it's www.cccombank.com. I have lendistry.com, and I have crossriversba.com. Fuyumi, what I'll do is I'll send you those links, and then you can post them to your resource page. But
yeah, we can,
these
yes,
are
Yep.
these are institutions that are able to handle non-customers. Now remember, they may have a requirement where they need you to open up a deposit account because the PPP, they'll need to get the money to you. So don't be surprised if there are additional requirements. I've heard of, you know, a deposit account being required. And just so that you're aware, with the PPP, the basic requirements that I talked about apply to all SBA approved lenders, although some lenders have additional requirements. So don't be surprised in the application process if they ask for additional information. Okay? Other proactive steps you can take, if you have not already reached out to your mortgage lender, lessor, property management company, owner of the building, I think you should consider reaching out to them. if you are being impacted by the coronavirus, your business is being impacted by the coronavirus, for some, they have options in place. They are able to work with you. For others, they may not be as cooperative. But if you don't let them know that you're being impacted by the coronavirus, then they are not aware of the impact to you. So if you've made phone calls, I'm suggesting that you follow it up with an email. And again, that's to help you remember who you've reached out to let them know you've been impacted by the coronavirus. And because there's so many different things going on, you want to be able to track, what you've done, the steps that you've taken. So absolutely think about reaching out to your lenders, lessors, suppliers, vendors. Think about all of your operating expenses for the business. For some, you'll continue to have operating expenses even though you may not be an essential business and you're unable to continue to work with customers in this time period that we're in. So I'm just asking you to take a step back, carve out some time, look at your operating expenses because you also want to prioritize your cash flow. So absolutely think about informing those that you work with on a regular basis that you are being impacted by the coronavirus. If you choose to follow up by phone, fine, but then think about following up via email. And if you send emails and you don't get a response back, check back periodically. At least that way you know that you're being proactive. Okay? Just kind of talking through opportunities. Absolutely, we know that you're in survival sustainability mode. When you are able to relax your mind a bit, carve out some time, it is a good time to think about working on your business because the goal is to come through the impact of the coronavirus. And yes, you may have a different business model. Maybe you're doing business a little bit differently now, but it is a good time for you to work on your business. But only think about doing that if you're in the right mindset to do that. But it is an opportunity. If you have an opportunity to think about new distribution channels, maybe you didn't have a delivery element to your business before. Maybe you didn't have a virtual element to your business before. It's a great time to think about new distribution channels. And we know it's a pandemic and not all businesses have a global impact, but maybe there's an opportunity for you to have a global opportunity related to your business. And as things are happening in the US, they are happening in other parts of the world, and nobody knows what the timing is, what's going to happen continent by continent, but there is that possibility that another continent is in a better state economically, and your business may be able to work in that other continent or customers on that other continent. So it's just something for you to think about. Absolutely think about engaging with your existing customers. Maybe you had so much going on prior to being impacted by the coronavirus that you just didn't have the opportunity to engage with your customers. And it really is engaging with them. It's checking in to see how they're doing because you care about your customers. Your business would not exist without your customers. So think about it. It's an opportunity for you. Potentially partnering with other businesses. Again, it's you thinking about your business model. Maybe there's somebody that you've always wanted to partner with, and it's somebody that you may be able to partner with in the future. Just think about it. If you are able to keep employees fully employed, even partially employed, think about internal projects that you need to get done. Maybe there's some things that you've wanted to work on and you just keep pushing it aside. Remember, mindset-wise, you have to be in the right mindset, and maybe there is a project or two that you can work on during this time. And it helps to kind of break things up too. And it's productive. It's another way for you to stay engaged and doing something that needs to be done and that you're able to get done. Think about skill building. So lots of webinars going on, a lot of information online, free, accessible. Again, if you are in the right mindset, think about the knowledge that's out there, the skills that you can gain. Never too late to work on yourself and or extend the opportunity to your employees. So it's just things for you to think about. And these are just questions I'm sure everybody's been thinking about. I mean, but how committed are you to your business? I'm assuming that everybody is fully committed to your business. What are you willing to do? What have you done so far to work on surviving, sustaining? Everybody is willing to do certain things. There are some things that you are not willing to do. So again, it's knowing your limits from a business perspective, from a personal perspective. I'm just suggesting that you think about it, that you're aware of it before you get to that limit, whether it's business-wise, personal-wise. Okay, just something for you to think about. So, Q&A, I'm ready.
Okay, so Catherine, I'm sorry, at one point my laptop blacked out and I had to restart. So I'm missing some of those. So
Why don't do you want me to do the first ones and then?
Yeah, because I think the first few I can't see on that email. So if you don't mind.
Yeah, so the first question, Catherine, is I applied for the EIDL loan 10 days ago. When do we expect to hear back if the application was accepted or denied? And you may have answered this, but a few people have asked this question.
Yeah, sure. So it's up to 14 calendar days for the EIDL. So look for a response up to 14 calendar days. And then what I will do is I'll provide additional contact information for the SBA. So it's available, okay?
Okay, perfect. Next question. This company, the wife and husband, have an S corporation and no employees. So it's just the two of them. So it's still a corporation. Can we use this loan to pay their rent and expenses? That's part of the question.
Okay, so yes, the EIDL could be used because that would fall under sustainability. So is the rent of a separate space for the business?
I don't know.
Okay, so if the rent is for a business space, then yes, that's part of an operating expense to help with sustainability for the business.
So if they're working from home, no, but if they have a commercial, if they're renting space, commercial property, yes.
Yes.
Okay, then, so when you're a corporation, you don't, sometimes you're your employees too, sometimes you're not. But would they be able to pay themselves? Yeah, so they're employees of their own S corporation. Would they be able to pay themselves their regular salary with this loan?
So I'm assuming that they're W-2 employees of the S Corp, and yes, they could.
Okay, so regardless, I'm trying to understand if we can pay ourselves through this loan. So yes, you could. Or do they need to use unemployment then?
So remember, for unemployment, that is another option. There's also the work sharing program through EDD. So that's something else to consider. But if you're thinking about PPP, the intent is to keep employees fully employed. So it's a decision point for the business operationally. Can they keep them fully employed, or do they need to reduce below full-time employment? And that's where you probably would want to consider the EDD options, including work sharing.
Okay, so it says, will this grant, is this a grant or does it need to be repaid? So I guess it depends if it's the EIDL or the PPP. So can you explain that? Okay,
so EIDL, or the SBA disaster loan, has a feature where there's an advance up to $10,000 that does not need to be repaid. If you're talking about PPP, there is an element for potential forgiveness through the lender You have to request that forgiveness. You have to substantiate the spending that you have at the point where the PPP loan is received and the 8-week period following that. So 2 different options.
Okay. Next question. I think after this, you might be able to see the questions. Can you comment on the peculiars for single employee corporations, which is, I think you just answered. If they're a W-2 employee, they can still file for the PPP.
Yes. Right. So
And
they're saying sole shareholder for an S Corp, for a C Corp, sole member for an LLC. Yes, it's the W-2 aspect if they are talking about PPP. Again, it is fully employed.
okay.
Okay. And then the next one I see here is I'm confused about the difference between SBA and iBank loan.
Okay, so iBank is through the state of California. SBA is a federal agency, and the SBA is the direct lender for the SBA disaster loan, also known as EIDL. So 2 separate programs.
If you have more questions about that, Paul, you can add more. The next one is, if a company takes an EIDL loan and does not stay in business, what happens to the balance due?
So the balance on the EIDL loan is payable up to 30 years. So you have a very long time to pay that. The interest rate is 3.75%.
Okay.
So, I mean, I would say that's an option. It's 30 years. It's not 2 years like PPP.
I think their question was, if they go out of business, what happens to the balance due?
So then I would look at the terms of the loan docs that they would receive from the SBA for the EIDL.
Okay, the next one, I think we answered that. When can we see it come through to one's account?
Okay.
I think we answered that one. The next one is, we applied for PPP. What's the time frame for hearing back getting funding? Also read that the funds are first come, first serve. Once the funds run out, no more loans will be funded. Is that correct? And can the banks choose the larger loans over the smaller, or is it strictly by date applied?
So I'm going to say that the intent of the PPP is to help as many businesses as they can. I know that with certain approved SBA lenders that were not ready to actually take the online applications, they had businesses that were interested go through an initial screening where they were providing the business entity information, or basically part of the actual online application, and then they were notifying those customers, that had gone through that initial information part, that they would let them know when the active link was available for the loan. So it's supposed to be available for all businesses. There should not be any favoritism, but each SBA lender is handling their own process differently. So I can't speak to what goes on behind the scenes with the review process. The intent is to keep as many employees fully employed as businesses can while they are being impacted by the coronavirus. And yes, there are a limited number of funds that have been approved, but they're working to get additional monies approved through Congress. Because if you think about the impact of the local economy and the national economy, you know that it is a very high percentage that is driven by small to medium businesses. So it's critical. I hope that the underwriting process at SBA approved lenders is working the way that it should be working to benefit as many businesses as they can.
Thank you. The next one, I'm not sure, Russell, if this was maybe answered already, but do payroll costs include the house payments to owners via distributions?
No, that is not a payroll related cost.
Next, how many hours per week constitutes full-time?
So in some instances, I've heard 36. But again, that's an opportunity for the business to talk about, you know, what their norm is in the business. For some businesses, it's 30-something hours that's considered full-time status. For others, it's 40. So again, it's an opportunity for you to talk about your business and how you operate.
In California, if you provide health insurance, I think it's 30 hours considered full-time.
Okay, so 30 in some instances then. But again, you should let the lender know how you're operating so that they're clear. Otherwise, you know, you don't want them to make the assumption that it's a 40-hour employee.
And Yelena just say also here, she's a CPA. It says for PPP, it is based on 30 hours, it says.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one. For PPP, what is the time frame where we must get employees fully employed? What if we are a non-essential business and employees are required to shelter at home? I'm very confused about how those two issues work together.
Okay, so if you're a non-essential business and employees are sheltering at home and you're unable to have them work fully in the business, then that is not the intent of the PPP. The PPP, you're working to help keep employees fully employed. So in that scenario, it sounds like PPP would not be the best option for you to consider because you're not able to fulfill that. But let's say that one or two of the employees in the business, you can fulfill the fully employed requirement. You have an opportunity to make changes to your employees through April 26th. So if you make changes, we're pretending you have somebody that's working full-time, you have to reduce them below full-time, or you have to adjust the rate of pay. You know, you were paying them at a higher rate, you have to adjust it down. You have until June 30th to restore them back to that full-time status as part of the PPP, and it relates to forgiveness that you're requesting from the lender.
So Catherine, we get this question a lot where people don't maybe they don't understand that just because you can't go to work because you're not essential, you can't go to your office, doesn't mean that you can't work. You could be working remotely. So if your employees are working remotely, they're still your employees.
Yes, absolutely. That's where they're working on other things. Maybe they're not working on the activities that they would normally work on, but they're still working. And in some instances, they have the ability to work full-time. And others, it's just part-time. But yeah, they do have the ability to work.
In the case of all the organizations I know, businesses I know, like whether it's a chamber or just their business, we're all working full-time from home. It doesn't, we're working longer and harder from home, and we're not essential.
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay, the next question. Once approved for the PPP, can we ask for a deferral of the origination date?
So for the loan payment is deferred for 6 months, but the interest is still going to accrue for PPP.
So you can't defer the origination date?
No.
Okay.
I mean, the goal is that they want to get the money dispersed.
Right away. Right.
Right?
Right.
And then you have the loan that's being received, and you have that 8-week period too that comes into play.
Okay. Next question. Is there a program for deferral or forgiveness for any part of an existing non-disaster SBA loan?
There is. Thank you for bringing that up.
Great question.
If you have not been notified, there is forgiveness for existing SBA loan payments of 6 months. So if you have not been contacted by your SBA lender, definitely reach out to them to ask them about that. That is under the CARES Act, and it's forgiveness for the loan. You have other instances where you may be able to get deferment. But yes, ask about that. If you have loans set up, SBA loans set up on automatic payment, you have to remove the automatic payment. Otherwise, it will continue regardless of the relief that you get. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, great question. Great question. We get that question a lot as well. And then Mark, I think you had an update to your other question regarding a separate space. Hopefully you got that answered. Okay. Okay. And then next question, with the EIDL, is the $10,000 that is not subject to repayment separate from the actual loan?
No, that's, so the advance up to $10,000 with the EIDL is part of the loan. It's just a feature for the SBA disaster loan.
Next question, can you talk a little bit more about work sharing with EDD?
Yes, so work sharing is an option. So let's say, you know, you have employees, you have to have at least 2 employees. There are like 10 different requirements for the work sharing program. But the purpose is to help keep remaining employees sharing job duties so that they do not have to be reduced to full unemployment. It's a way for you to salvage and leverage, you know, their time and get things done in your business at a lower cost. Nancy, do you want to speak to that?
Hold on, I had to go help some up front. What was the question again?
It's work sharing because you've used it in the past.
Yeah, so EDD has a work sharing program. We used it after the Northridge earthquake, where they will pay a portion of your employees' salaries. The thing is that, you know, when you are paying into your unemployment insurance fund, it's not a gift. It's reducing that fund. So if you, God forbid, you lay off an employee later, they won't have as much money to claim on their unemployment because they're going to be using part of it. So you have to really give consideration to how you want to use it, how many hours you want to use it for. Because I forgot the minimum, but like when we did it, we did 75% we paid and they pay 25%. But you could go up to, I think, what, 50%? So you just need to consider it by how many employees you have. And it's really a great program because we were able to keep all of our employees after the Northridge earthquake.
Right.
So, I mean, if anyone has any questions, they can always email me or something about it, call me.
Yeah. So there's a link on EDD's website specifically for the work sharing program, and it has the requirements, and there's a number that you can call too.
And I believe that we have that up on the resource website. It should be up there.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark, do you want to be unmuted? I didn't hear back from you real quick. Mark, I'm going to unmute you. Was your question answered? You have to unmute yourself, I think.
Oops.
Mark, Huey, was your question answered?
He might not have a microphone.
Okay. All right. If you have another question, just go ahead and put it back in the queue again. Okay, questions here. If we are required to pay 8 weeks since receiving the loan, if we are closed or employees are not working, do we still have to pay them their regular hours, or does the 8-week pay period start when we open back up based on the governor's orders?
So the 8 weeks as it relates to PPP is, so it's 8-week period where you're requesting from the lender for forgiveness for the payroll costs that you have over the 8 weeks. Suggest if you are not working with an independent HR professional, HR company, that you work with that type of resource so that you're clear on what you need to do from an employer perspective to help minimize your risk. Operationally, I mean, you can have things change. If it's an essential, even if it's an essential business, it may get to the point where you have employees that are impacted by the coronavirus or home that's impacted by the coronavirus, which means that you have fewer people that are able to work with you, even though you may have, you know, the same level of active customer activity.
Oh, Catherine, I think we lost your sound.
Catherine, we lost you.
Catherine, are you there? We can't hear you. We can see you.
You couldn't hear me?
Oh, no, I couldn't hear. Sorry, I couldn't hear the rest of that answer there. That last bit.
For what I said?
Yes, yeah, just that last part.
Oh, okay. I was just talking about just the operational impact. So again, if you're not working with an independent HR professional or an HR company, I'm suggesting that you do that so that you are aware from an employer perspective, potential risk when you have to make changes related to your employees and how they're working.
So let's see, Cash, she has a follow-up to that. I'm asking in the sense of forgiveness, would it start when we are back operating and pay 8 weeks for employers when we open back up? But hey, Cash, you can allow yourself to speak if you want to unmute yourself, and then you want to ask the specifics.
Yeah, I guess you're kind of answering it, but can you hear me first?
Yes.
What I'm trying to understand, for that 8-week period, if it is for, you know, staying active and keeping employees employed, if we can't work, like physically they can't work remotely because we're such a hands-on operation, does that 8-week period start when we can, you know, the governor says, hey, restrictions, shelter at home is removed, and we continue to pay them for 8 weeks straight in order for it to be forgiven?
So the 8-week period starts at the point where the PPP loan is received from your lender.
Okay. So is there an advice for us to pay them even though they can't work, pay them a full salary for that 8-week period, even though they might not be able to, we might not be able to find a clever way for them to fully work at home, just so it can be turned into a grant?
I'm suggesting that you think about it from a business perspective, because remember, you have to request forgiveness from the lender. It's not an automatic on the PPP. So you have to think about your exposure from a business perspective, financially and operationally. You have to request the forgiveness days to give you an answer. I'm hoping that, you know, they will turn around answers sooner than 60 days, but that means you have the loan being received, you have the 8-week period where you're spending, you're requesting forgiveness after the 8-week period, so potential exposure.
So a quick follow-up to that, when you asked, when you said to reach out to our landlord actually sent everybody an email saying kind of, hey, if you're asking for your rent to be deferred or even for it to be reduced, then you won't qualify for the forgiveness. So they're suggesting us to pay in full in order for us to qualify for the forgiveness. Is that true?
Catherine, we can't hear you.
Unfortunately.
Oh. There, Catherine? I can see you. I see your mouth is moving.
Femi, some people are putting in
Okay,
questions.
it seems
in
like
the chat.
something's happening with the connection. Can you hear
Okay,
me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
But before you go on, Catherine, if you're putting questions in the chat, that's not where we're looking for questions. You need to put them in the Q&A because they'll get lost as the chat continues. Just want you to know.
Okay, so I'm going to respond to Cash. So Cash, the forgiveness part, if you look at the loan being received as 100%, 75% can be spent towards payroll costs. 25% of that loan received can be spent on rent, lease, mortgage interest associated with the space, and utilities. So the information that you got is using a mixture of the requirements of the PPP. So it's not that you'll be disqualified for the PPP. You won't be disqualified. It's just that there is a limit of up to 25% of the amount.
We lost you again, Catherine. Not sure what's going on with your sound.
Okay.
All right, I can hear you again.
Okay. Is that
I
better?
can hear you. Yes, I can hear you. Clear.
Okay. So Cash, if we're looking at 100% of the loan received, 75% can be spent on payroll-related costs. The other 25% can be spent on mortgage interest, rent or lease payment for the business space, and utilities. So
that 20
that's where,
in the 8-week period as well, it has to be spent in that 8-week period.
yeah, it's just if we have a $100,000 loan that was received in that 8-week period, $75,000 can be spent on payroll costs. $25,000 can be spent on your building and your utilities.
Okay, thank you.
It's just you're limited with the forgiveness amount in that 8-week period.
But whatever agreement you may have with your personal landlord doesn't necessarily affect what can be forgiven, as long as you're following those rules. Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Okay, next question. In what circumstances would someone apply for an iBank loan and not SBA? And what are the different criteria? What is the difference?
So I'm going to say that I would always apply for the SBA disaster loan. There's no reason for you not to apply because it's another resource. And there's the advance up to $10,000 that does not need to be repaid. iBank is a loan through the state of California. And again, you have businesses that are competing for that relief. It is an option. I'm not sure what their interest rate is, but it's an option for the business to consider if you need it. I mean, the ultimate goal is that you can survive and get through the impact of the coronavirus, and that you have the ability to repay, if needed, any loans that you're able to secure. But you can absolutely go to ibank.ca.gov and you can see what the requirements are. Again, there's funding too, right? So there's a certain amount that's available, and they're trying to work with as many businesses as they can. But that's your opportunity, if you do apply, to let them know how your business should, work towards sustainability so that you can come through this.
Thank you. Michael asked, hello, can someone contact us and help us with the paperwork and let us know which option is best for us? Catherine, perfect question for you.
So, yeah.
Oh, cutting in and out again.
I'm gonna give my email. So it's
Oh, Catherine, you're cutting out again. Can you put your email in that, maybe in the chat space there? Catherine, yeah, we can't hear. Oh, there you go. Oh,
Can you hear me now?
yes, can hear you now. Yep.
I'm not sure what's going on with the connection.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, sorry, what your email address, Catherine?
Yes,
Okay.
it's Catherine, You have it, Fuyumi. Can
I
you
have
just
it,
type
yeah,
it
so
in
I
the
can-
chat box?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Nancy's gonna put in the chat box for us. So it'll be in the chat box, everybody, and you can email Catherine, and someone from her team
Yeah.
can definitely, that's part of what they do. So definitely reach out to them. There, she put it, Nancy put it right in there. Okay, next
Thank
question.
you.
Yeah, we laid some people off when there was uncertainty whether we would get paid. What will disqualify us for the PPP loan, or will that disqualify us for the PPP loan?
So again, when you apply for the PPP, the intent is to keep employees fully employed. So you can make changes through April 26th. It's just that you need to restore the status by June 30th for PPP. And again, that relates to potential forgiveness, which you have to request from the lender.
Michael asks, I mailed the SBA paperwork to Texas. Was this correct?
About when did you mail that? What date did you mail that?
And Michael, I'm going to make it so that you can speak. Go ahead, Michael.
Hi, thank you so much. So I mailed it about, I think a week ago. I think I did it on Friday to Texas, and I've been seeing on the news that everybody's saying that everybody's getting everything delayed, and I realized some people reaching out directly to California. So it was 1 week ago, so it probably arrived in the stack of many others probably sometime this week.
Okay, so I'm going to provide contact information so that you can follow up with the SBA. I mean, the turnaround time is
Oh, we lost you again. Your
has been
connection.
delays with mail. What's that, Michael?
It cut out. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
There have been delays with the mail, but I will provide the contact information for the SBA.
Okay, perfect. And what I'm doing currently is I have your email. I was going to type up a quick little description of our company, what our current activities have been since the coronavirus and the application. Would that be sufficient to preferably get some type of response kind of directly on what we have done, what we should do, and which loan qualifies for us the best?
So I'm actually I'll set up a meeting with you. So you don't have to give me all that detail. Just send me the quick email.
Okay, I'm doing it right now. Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Next question. If employees have naturally worked 50-hour weeks, if we change that to 40-hour weeks, as far as forgiveness, would that still be considered a reduction in hours? Or as long as they are 40 hours, and even though hours are technically reduced, will it not be considered a reduction in hours? So I guess the question is an overtime part. Yeah.
Okay, so the overtime is something that happens as needed, so it's still a full-time employee, and I wouldn't say that's a reduction in hours.
Okay, so let's see here. This is very confusing. If I get the $10,000 forgivable advance, and that is all I need to sustain me, what is the amount of the loan? Not even sure if this is the correct way to frame the question. And there's a lot of confusion.
So yes,
about that.
that's the perfect way to frame the question. So it's an advance up to $10,000, and if that's all you need, then there is no loan. So if you apply online and the SBA comes back with a dollar amount, what you can do is you can just say you're only interested in the $10,000. Implies that the loan amount does not happen because you're only interested in the advance. But if you were in a situation, where you needed to access more than the advance up to $10,000, then you have a number that's being presented to you. And you can always just say yes or no.
Great. What are considered utilities under PPP?
So utilities would be like electric, gas, things that the building is using for operational purposes. Not cell phones, not internet, nothing like that.
But let me ask you, what, like these days, most people's phones are voice over internet. That's the only way your phones work. And for instance, we have phones that are voice over internet. They have an app that go to our cell phone so we can work remotely and still answer the chamber phones.
Right.
So is
I'm
that
gonna
not,
say
is that
that
not a
would-
utility then? Because telephones are technically
It-
normally a utility.
It is a utility, but it's not a utility for purposes of PPP.
Oh, for PPP, okay.
Yes.
Elena, is that fine, or do you have a follow-up to that? I can make it so you can talk. Elena?
I'm good. That was
Okay.
my question, was literally phones and internet.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, someone asked, how about startups? Can they get PPP?
You said, you cut out just a bit, Fuyumi.
She was asking about startups and the PPP. Are they able to apply?
So startup as in what date did the business start operating?
Joyce, was that you? Maybe? I'm going to allow you to talk. I think that was Joyce. Joyce, you want to unmute yourself and
Yes, it started in 2019.
So yes, you can apply.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see here. This is a follow-up to the $10,000 advance question. Because it says it's not clear. It is a grant that is built into EIDL. They might offer you a loan and you don't have to take it. You can just keep the 10,000 portion, which does not have to be repaid. All of their products are loans with forgivable and are the grant portions aside. Oh, never mind. Great. She answered the question as a follow-up to the follow-up. Goodbye. Okay. Let's see here. What is the interest rate on the PPP loan? It's all very fluid, people. It's all very fluid here. Yeah, what's the interest rate on the PPP loan?
So the interest rate for the PPP is 1%.
Oh, someone is furiously typing here. Okay. If you can mute yourself if you're not speaking would be great. Okay, so what is the interest rate of the PPP loan? Sorry. Catherine, I think did we lose you again? Catherine, are you there?
Now I can hear you. I
Okay.
couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. Oh no, our connection. Okay, what is the interest rate on the PPP loan?
It's 1%.
Okay, and then I did see another question in the chat. Let me go back to that. I think they didn't include it. Did the SBA change the rules? Oh, okay. I don't know if this was kind of answered. It says, did the SBA change the rules to the $10,000 advance? I hear that it's no longer 10,000. Is that correct?
It's an advance up to 10,000. It's always been that.
Yeah. So no, that has not changed. Okay.
No.
And
I
Nancy,
have a question. While this was going on, we got an email just from a group that we belong to, and they said, "Hi everyone. Do any of you know of a business that received an SBA loan, not approved but actual cash deposit?" And Catherine, you did say yes on that, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And if you could,
Several.
okay. And then this is another chamber. So they've had members been approved, but then after they were approved, they were asked to fill out additional paperwork, and the original amount of what they were approved for may get reduced. So
So I have heard of some instances, but it sounds like it's just an error in the system. So tell them that they should go back and refer to the higher amount and stick with that. And then I'm aware that the SBA came back and restored that previous higher amount. So yes, I've heard instances of that.
okay, great. Perfect.
wonderful. So I do see an attendee with their hand raised. Joyce, was your question answered, Joyce, or is it okay if I lower your hand, or do you still have a question? Okay, I'm going to assume Joyce is done. So before we say thank you to Catherine and let her go on to what I'm assuming is a very busy day, does anyone else have any other questions? Your last chance. And I think everyone, you can unmute yourself and you should be able to speak if you have any questions. Okay. If not, then thank you so much, Catherine. This was so great. I think we got a lot of questions answered, which is really wonderful.
Okay.
And depending on how
Good.
everything goes, we may have to do another Q&A session another time. So thank you.
Sounds good.
We appreciate your time so much. And thank you everyone for being here. If you have any other questions, like we said, feel free to reach out to anyone at the chamber here. Feel free to reach out to Catherine. Go to our website, again, sfbresource.com, and we'll try to keep that updated as possible. But please reach out to us. We're all here to help you. That's what we're trying to do. We're all trying to make sure that we're all here when this is over. So thank you, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks again,
Okay,
Catherine.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.